Okay. Good morning, Gabby.
Good morning, Elisa. We'll just wait for everybody to jump on.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. If you're starting to see this live streaming in the Facebook group, and welcome. We've got lots of questions to go through this morning that you've asked us. I'll just give it a couple more minutes and then Gabby and I will introduce ourselves and then we'll get started on all the questions. I'll just see if there's any other late questions that have come in.
We do have a couple, Elisa, that I've seen this morning. So we'll get to Kylie and Julie, who just wrote in this morning.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, great.
And all right, shall we start off introducing?
Yeah, why don't we start now? And Gabby, why don't you introduce yourself?
So if I haven't met any of you, my name is Gabi and I'm the naturopath and nutritionist at Cultured Wellness, and I work very closely with Elisa and Kirsty on the programs. So you see my name popping up, and I guess, Michael, I've got a degree qualification and we'll be taking you through all the programs in terms of walking you through all the clinical side of things, like your bloods, your testing, and just getting to know you and your history, your health history in consults, and also advising on any herbal cleansers that you might need and much, much more. So handing over to Elisa.
Yeah, Gabby missed a little point there that she's also a herbalist
Oh, yes,
and
sorry
mixes
about
all
that.
your beautiful herbals that are required if you're doing cleanses or any special tailored herbals. So fantastic. So yes, I'm Elisa. I'm the head health coach here at Culture Wellness, and I am a integrative and functional health coach, and I take you through more of the tailoring of getting you on program, helping you with your meal plans, substituting. If you're a mum and you've got lots of kids on program too, just helping you get your routines in order, how to substitute and get the like little bits of tailoring in your kids' meals, or if one doesn't like one thing, how can we bulk cook and batch cook for everybody and not cooking 5 meals at once? So that's how we support you from our program. So Gabby and myself and Kirsty and the rest of the team. And we're happy to be here today to be answering some of your questions.
Yes,
So,
and definitely jump in the chat and start writing some more questions if you have any while you're on the live, and just pop your name in as well so we can see who it is.
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
And if you've seen this live later in the day and you've got some questions, still pop them in because the rest of the team will be in the rest of the day answering your questions.
Yes, exactly. Well, excited to hopefully answer all of them today for you. So, shall we start off with a couple that we had, just the two late ones? Let's start off just talking a little bit about butyrate. So, actually, before we get to that, let's just talk about the ketogenic diet and how we progress into ketosis with cultured wellness programs. I might start off and just talking a little bit about, Kirsty's already talked a lot about ketosis in her lives, but the overall idea of our ketogenic protocol is to naturally, obviously, progress into ketosis, but we're also looking at a big autoimmune perspective as well, and nourishing your microbiome. So it's a little bit different to lots of keto based programs, as it's very, very gut healing and nourishing. So the autoimmune component comes from, we're doing the ketogenic diet where we're using obviously fats for fuel because it's a much better fuel source for the body to help, produce new mitochondria and to get into that anti-inflammatory process in the body. So the autoimmune part of it also comes in with, we do take out nightshades, which can be something that you don't normally just take out of your diet randomly. It would be if there is an autoimmune component. And because we're encompassing it all, we really like to just to really make sure we're covering everything, as well as using fermented foods. So we are using the ferments to nourish and turn over your microbiome into, mainly being dominant in our beautiful beneficial microbiome. So we can also push out all the pathogens at the same time. And the diet will also not feed those pathogens as well. So that's pretty much the basics of our ketogenic diet. And we also had a question about, sorry, with the one-on-one tailored approach, obviously that can also be tailored in our one-on-one programs depending on what's going on for the person. So usually in an appointment with myself, we will talk about what you specifically need. So if there's any already conditions that you have, we will work with that. But we did have a question about in the Kickstarter program, we had a question on pain, anxiety, and high inflammatory markers, and how that would also help prevent heart disease and all of that. So I guess that basically starts with reducing inflammation in the body and getting the body into a state that it is naturally suppressing any kind of inflammation. So that can lead us into our butyrate conversation as well. Elisa, do you have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I guess a ketogenic diet today is predominantly talking about weight loss as well, but some people also can't afford to lose weight. So we maintain your health and your balance, and we're very particular into ensuring that for those who can't afford to lose weight and maintaining, and those who are losing weight aren't losing weight too quickly, because that's not healthy as well, because it can stress on different organs and different systems. So we're really, that's where the tailoring comes in, which Gabby was mentioning, where we do particularly bring in different things just to sustain that health over that period of time when you are going through your protocol.
Yes, exactly. Okay, and then the suitability for children on program as well. So we had a couple of parents write in about, what would be the best program for their 7-month-old or their 4-year-old. And my answer to that would be definitely the one-on-one tailored approach. So generally, if the child is under 2, we would normally work with the mothers predominantly, but we would definitely, to answer more on that, need to know a little bit more about what's going on for your child and for you, and that would be probably discussed in a discovery call. So
Hmm.
we will put that information up there for you to book in a discovery call with Kirsty, and then we can have a little bit more understanding of what's going on for you both, and then go from there. But it would most likely be the one-on-one program.
Yeah, usually we need to look in to see if the mother's breastfeeding or if the baby's already on solids. What are they having? If they're yeah, and if there's the health history of the mother, of course, and birthing and different things like that, because they all impact the little baby's gut microbes, and the baby is obviously developing its gut microbes all the way up to 3 or so, predominantly, which is what the research shows, has been shown. And then after that, it's sort of sustaining that foundation. So, yeah, that's really important questions that we need to inquire when we're working with children. And when we're working with children, we do again tailor really specifically. We need to know, what are they having right now? And we work out really great substitutes so that the child's, eating every single macronutrient in its balance, and ensuring that, nothing's been eliminated that they really need. And so, so it's very much a tailored approach for younger children. Yeah.
Yes, and then if we're looking at testing for children as well, we can definitely go by symptoms under 2 years old. However, with any type of gut test, it's usually the standard is most companies won't do any with microba that we use. They can't really test anyone under 2 years old because their microbiome is still developing. So that's why we won't offer testing for under 2, but anyone from 2 years old onwards, yes, we can definitely.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a tailored approach. So yes, that's the answer to the one-on-one approach with children. I hope that covered everything. Just one more thing to add as well with children under 16, obviously parental guidance as well. So, but absolutely available to our children and teenagers at the same time. It's a perfect time to get in there and create some beautiful patterns with food. So,
Yes. Understanding what real food is, and how it's benefiting their health. Just
yeah,
to have a better understanding then.
yeah,
Yeah.
getting that initial feedback on how, healthy food and beautiful food can nourish our body and our mind, especially in those hormonal years. So we do work with a lot of teenagers. All right, so we had a question on Facebook how to make butyrate from butter, and Kirsty had talked about that quickly in the live. So butyrate is naturally in butter, and butyrate is a short chain fatty acid that is basically something that fuels our gut cells. So it really helps to keep our gut lining intact. So it makes it really strong and robust, so that we're not getting any type of immune response coming from our gut. Because we do have around, and that's why we focus so much on gut health. We've got around 70% of the immune system that is triggered by what's going on in the gut. So butyrate will hold that gut lining together. It also helps to maintain appetite. It produces serotonin and it reduces inflammation, which is the biggest component of butyrate. Yes. And then we had another question there, Lisa, which I'll let you answer, which
Yeah,
was
I'll just go back to the butter in the butyrate. Some people can't tolerate, obviously, butter being a dairy and being if they're lactose intolerant or if they're casein intolerant. And ghee is another beautiful alternative that includes that beautiful butyrate. So you can, definitely substitute that into ghee. So we predominantly find that people have less, allergies or response to ghee. But if the dairy is out completely like an animal dairy, then broth is another slight alternative. Animal bone broths, or but that's other different areas that you can get it from. Yeah.
excellent. And if we do have an abundance of beneficial bacteria, that is also going to stimulate the production of butyrate in the gut, such as bifidobacterium species. So
Correct.
that's
Yeah.
also another component of
Yeah.
butyrate.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, and then we had another question. So this one is, I'll just read it out for you, Elisa. I
Okay.
recently purchased some of your cultures for the orange juice. It says to be kept in the fridge for up to 2 weeks and can be done up to 5 times. So if I reserve a cup to do a subsequent ferment, does it have to be within the 2 weeks from the
Uh,
first batch?
yeah. Yeah, so in our shop, we actually sell the coconut kefir, the apple kefir, and the orange kefir. The difference there is they're all actually made from the same bacteria and also all the same strains of those bacteria. But the difference between the kefir and the yogurt, I'll sidetrack here, is that the yogurt actually they've all got the same bacteria and in there, and the one yeast, but they beneficial yeast, but they actually take on a different sort of a bit of a difference because the coconut yogurt will take on more bifido due to the actual fibers in the coconut cream. However, the kefir actually takes on more lactobacillus. So the difference between the coconut, the apple, and the orange is that the coconut kefir is based on with those beautiful cultures, those liquid cultures. They're not grains. We don't do kefir grains. Some people ask us that question as well, but they're all done by liquid cultures that are actually very specifically chosen by Kirsty and popped into there. So based on coconut water, based on just the apple juice, and based on just orange juice. So the way to keep those going is by liquid, like the coconut water. So you straight from a coconut, or you can buy UHT coconut water, or you can do just juicing your oranges, your beautiful oranges, which is prevalent at this time of the year with the beautiful oranges in season, or you can do just apple juice. Now, some people do have allergies or reactions to coconut, so therefore that's why you can use the orange or the apple. Now, the orange and the apple can be used to ferment different fruits or make your sauerkraut or kimchi or things like that. So yeah, and it tastes great having the different variety from those apple. I've even used the apple to make sour cream. So they're the differences that you can do with those.
Yeah.
When you are fermenting a batch, we actually recommend to ferment 2 liter batches and only doing it 5 times because after that the actual bacterial strength actually dies off, and they do die off and they go down to very lower amounts, and therefore fermenting it won't ferment as well. And also we're trying to keep the therapeutic grade when you are doing these medicinal programs, because we're trying to eradicate a lot of those pathogens. So that's why we recommend doing it 5 times. When you're using it daily and opening it to the air, you will expose it to the environment. Our environment has got all different types of molds and bacteria and yeast in our natural air, which can contaminate our ferment. And therefore, usually it will last about 2 or so weeks. If you did make up a large batch, you can decanter it into smaller batches, and you can keep them airtight and not open them. Now, they will last a lot longer. If you don't open them daily, they can last up to 3 months in the fridge, and they can last 6 months in the freezer unopened. But if you are opening it daily and putting utensils in, don't forget our utensils are probably not sterile, so you're popping them in as well, and there is risk of contamination of molds and yeast and various bacteria. So that's why we sort of say 2 weeks when it's open. But if you're keeping your starter and you haven't opened it, you can leave that in the fridge for up to 3 weeks. 3 weeks. So yeah, that's the difference. Yeah, good question.
Thank you, Elisa. Yes, you just covered a lot there, and it does sound very daunting when you start fermenting, but once you get a handle on it, it's actually quite easy. So you're not as stressed when you're fermenting to be, expecting things that like mold and calm yeast and all of that. But
Yeah.
we're available to answer those questions on the Facebook pages anyway if you have any questions.
Yeah, and check out our YouTube channel. Kirsty's got some amazing how-to videos on how to make each one of those different kefirs, or making her yogurts or diversity dough, and she's got so many great tips and tricks within those videos. So check them out on the Cultural Wellness YouTube channel. Yeah.
Excellent. And Elisa, another question which we can answer is, I'm having trouble getting into ketosis and can't remember the last time I was tested. I feel like I'm holding on to fat instead of using them for fuel. So I'm not sure if my no gallbladder is still impacting this. And then there's a question underneath that, which is very similar. And it is, how would I know when my body is in ketosis?
Okay, so I'm going to answer them separately.
Right.
Okay, that's a typical question about I can't get into ketosis, and usually there's quite a significant amount of different things that could be occurring to your body. It's not really a one all fits all approach to everyone's body. Sometimes it is difficult that when we come off the glucose and our liver is trying to produce those ketones, that the hormone process or the liver process, is the liver going through that process of making those ketones. So that's one thing, as we decrease those glucose down. And the other thing is, like, well, have we reduced our glucose enough for our liver to produce those actual ketones for us to burn that fat, or make that energy from that fat? So that's one thing, reducing those carbohydrates enough. Like, even in our, I've seen people who've eaten too much zucchini, or they've eaten, they think their squash is quite low in carbohydrates, but actually it's tipped them out. So that's number one. Some people don't eat enough calories or fats, which I think you mentioned before, or Kirsty's mentioned, that actually will tip them into ketosis. Now, that's a common thing when people come on a program, because they feel like they're restricted, and they probably don't realize they're probably not eating enough protein, or they're not actually having enough good saturated fats. And that's a common thing. And then they start skipping meals and all sorts of things, which is detrimental. So we never advise that at all. And that can tip you out of ketosis. Another one is stress. Oh my goodness, I see it so many times. It could be the smallest amount of stress, just getting through traffic, or it could be just running out the door, trying to keep up to a program, trying to get, general life gets in the way, and stress, anything can just tip you out. Literally a couple of hours could tip you out in stress. Now, another thing is that people don't often go into their, parasympathetic nervous system. So this is where we're not in fight flight, but we're now in rest and relaxation, rest and digest. So a lot of people are just on the go. And if they're not coming back and being mindful, or being resting and digesting, that can easily kick us out again. And I guess that will go part and part in hand with the actual stress responses. So that's a very a common one that tips everybody out.
And
Another
that's
one is
oh, sorry, Lisa.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was just going to say that's why we have a heavy focus on lifestyle practices such as mindfulness, meditation, not always over exercising, but going for gentle walks, just purposely to train your nervous system again, because we're so used to our nervous system being really go, 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 that we forget in our modern lifestyle how to bring it back into rest and digest. So
Yeah,
you often
and
hear Kirsty and I talking a lot about that in consults, even if it feels very unrelated. We always go back to those foundations.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
Kickstarter has all of those sections very much in there for you to learn.
Yeah, movement is so important. You can't just yeah, it's difficult when somebody is still chronically ill and they are a lot bedridden or they're but we still encourage movement. It's so
Mm.
important, and that's all part of not only getting into ketosis, but for those good gut macros, we need movement, we need fresh air. Um, Another one that may not you may not be staying in ketosis is hydration. A
Yeah.
lot of us are dehydrated. We do not drink enough or have enough liquids in our day, and it's very easily missed, particularly if you are stressed. All that sort of goes in hand as well. But electrolytes is another one. Some people, I guess they've heard the salt analogy. I shouldn't be putting salt in, or they're now, if they're not drinking, kefir is a great one to help support your electrolytes because it's based on coconut water, but they may not, their diet just might be a little bit restricted in that sense. So
Mm.
we can certainly work with that with either liquids or foods or different things like that to help you. But again, that's just another one of my, I sort of have about 10 different areas that to get you into ketosis because, as
Mm.
I said, one thing is not necessarily another. Like somebody might say, I am moving. Somebody might say, I don't have a lot of stress in my life, but it might just be a tweak of some of these things that really are enough to get you into ketosis. Um, Another area of checking. Oh, another one too. Coming on program. A lot of people think, "What do I eat?" And then they go too heavy on the protein. But what they don't realize is that protein is actually can convert into a type of sugar. I won't go into it, but it can tip you out of ketosis. So that's another thing. They're like, "Well, what do I eat?" And I guess it's great to go and grab for protein, but still, in a sense, you still need beautiful vegetables. And fruits and vegetables, and we ferment our fruits, and we eat really clean vegetables and that aren't high in carbs. But that's another area where it can tip people out. They don't realize that, like, oh yeah, I've actually been that's my snack, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I've been eating too much protein. Sleep is another one, which I guess gets a little bit underrated, but we do check in with that because if somebody isn't sleeping or they're up 5 times a night or they can't fall back asleep, what is going on there? Is it a pathogen that's waking you up, or is it that, there's something else that the body is not going through its rest and digest? Is the hormones out? And I guess Gabby can talk into that further, but that is so important because if you're waking up already tired or you're not, balancing out, throughout that night all of that can easily tip you out as well.
Yeah,
Um,
and we can check all those things as well in our naturopathic consultations. If we think that there's something more going on, I might do bloods to check your cortisol, to check your glucose, to check your inflammatory markers as well, because when we are chronically inflamed, our stress hormones will go up, and that can also affect how we get into ketosis. So it's all about balance, isn't it, Elisa?
yeah, and another thing we focus a lot on is your bowel movements.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
In
That
any one of our consults, we will always be checking in because if you're not moving your bowel, you're not removing those pathogens or those toxins, and that's just another thing that can be impacting getting into ketosis.
And
Mm.
sometimes it is the small things that can make the biggest difference. So even just moving your bowels every day, if you've had a life of moving them every second or third day, there's going to be a lot of things going on in your body. So
Yeah,
we might just focus on that even throughout the course of our consultations for a few months.
yeah,
It's very tailored and it's very individual, and it's a bit about knowing your body and learning about what works for you. And not everybody is going to get into ketosis at
yeah,
the same time. You're not going to be 2 days in ketosis. Some people might, some people may not, depending on what's going on for you. So
And
Don't
that's a good segue into the next question, which you asked me, how do you test or check?
yeah.
Um, so there's three different ways that we recommend to test for ketosis. There's the urine strips that you can test with. There's the breath monitors that you can get a hold of as well, and there's also the blood monitoring, which is like the blood glucose sugars monitoring, but you actually have special ketone strips to check. So when the liver is producing those ketones, it will go directly into the blood. It can actually you'll be testing it out through the breath or be coming out through the urine. So it's also important how you test, and we do go through that. You can use any one of those during the program, but we guide you on, how to read it, what to look into. We don't want you at the maximum. Everyone thinks that when they're going to be in ketosis, they're going to be at the maximum end. We don't want you to be at the top spectrum. You could just be sitting in the low end of the spectrum, and that's the healthiest way. So it's not about trying to achieve the highest levels. It's never about that. It's just about tracking the body at those lower safe levels is really important. So they're the different ways that we test, and again, everyone could be a little bit different. It depends on how your liver's functioning and how your hormones are being produced, and everything for you to get in ketosis. Some people can get into ketosis in 4 days, 2 weeks. Some people it takes months, and that's just due to your own body and obviously going through whatever else is going on, that inflammation or those pathogens or what have you, or that liver might be a bit stagnant. Yeah. Yeah. I think
Okay,
that was that
excellent.
question. Did I answer all those for that big question?
No, that's good. That was great, Elisa. Thank you so much. I'm sure that a lot of people had that question, so it's good to clear it up. So, I just wanted to chat quickly because we haven't mentioned much about our herbal cleansers. So, someone had a question, is that going to help with my pain, fatigue, and inflammation? So, that would really, yes, absolutely, they can. We've got three different cleansers: a candida and antibacterial cleanse, parasitic cleanse, and a viral cleanse. So, some clarification on those. We always are on the Kickstarter diet before we even go into cleansers. So, which cleanse we decide for you will be based on a microba test, it'll be based on a consult with myself, it'll be based on where we recommend from your discovery call what is best for you. So, obviously, someone with a chronic health history, there's going to be a lot of work to do. So, that is where, obviously a one on one approach is very important. And even if you don't have a complex health history and you really struggle with making food, or you're not motivated, or you're just really lacking in energy and you're very tired and fatigued, the one on one is still excellent because you cannot even think to make a recipe when you're feeling like that. So we chat about all of those in the discovery call and what is going to be most suitable for you. And then from there, we would have a consultation and a naturopathic consultation. And then I'll see which cleanse might be best for you to start first, or you might do a few repeats of one. So if you have, lots of bacteria overgrowth and parasitic overgrowth, obviously majority of the time, we will always do that anyway. Most people will have a little bit of dysbiosis in their gut. So we will use naturopathic herbs to help rebalance our beneficial bacteria. So when it comes to pain, obviously there is underlying things going on, and that can definitely stem on from what's going on in your gut, inflammation. So bacteria can cause inflammation. There are certain bacteria that migrate to different areas of the body, such as your joints. There's one in particular called Prevotella, which is quite prevalent in going and causing rheumatoid arthritis and joint pain and all of that. So when you're getting pain, obviously you're fatigued and there's inflammation. So those three things, as Kirsty has mentioned, they go hand in hand. So one cleanse usually is not enough for most people, but it's a really good start. But we are also building a beneficial bacteria with the ferments at the same time. So Kirsty has talked a lot about viruses during the lives as well, because an underlying virus can cause lots of immune responses in the body. And there is, EBV, glandular fever, that can be associated with thyroid disorders. There's lots of research on that. So it's very important that we would probably also do a viral cleanse, which will also help with your immune system. So it's, even though they're called those specific things, it will usually target like a variety of things in the body, because herbs are multi-use. Naturopathic herbs are multi-use. So they're usually doing lots of different jobs. And I will go through that in the consult. And at the same time, we're looking at your blood test. So we're, making sure that we're checking those cardiovascular markers, which someone had a question about. So I might send you off to the GP, or we might do some bloods privately just to check those things depending on your health history. So yes, very complex, but starting with a discovery call would be really important to see which avenue would be best for you. And then you can make a decision from there. So I hope that clears up the herbal cleanses questions. Lots more can be discussed in a consult. And yeah, they are very beneficial. So an integral part of the program.
Yeah. And if you've got any questions about the programs, just Kirsty's doing some lives next week, and you can ask her any questions on where to start, what do I do, how do I get on board. And yeah, she'll be in on Monday and Wednesdays specifically talking about the programs and what can be beneficial for you and you or your family, or because we can have multiple people on the programs as you're going through, and we can you can progress from testing into a program, or we can just so Kirsty will be on next week talking about those different things as she wraps up her actual workshop series on Sunday, and then you can go in and ask her about that.
Lots more information to come for sure. All right, amazing. I think we've answered all the questions, but if you have any further queries that you'd like us to help you with, please pop them in on this live replay that we've posted in Facebook.
Yes, and we'll pop up the discovery call. Please book in for discovery call, because it's really nice just to check in with you, and it's nice, I guess, to hear your questions about the programs and questions or concerns in relation to your own health or your family's health. And it's really nice for us to be able to give you the correct recommendations on where to start.
Exactly. Well, we're all looking forward to working with you. So I think that's it for today.
Great. Thanks, Gabi. And thanks, everybody.
Well, thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Bye for now.